Part 3 of the 3-part series on MLM, episode number 10. The participation prize paradox. If you've ever watched me for very long, you know that I love alliteration. We've now crossed over culturally into a time of mediocrity never before seen in human history. Starting at childhood, no one can feel bad about themselves anymore for their lack of competence or talent. And those who are exceptional and strive to compete to win are actually now disincentivized to excel. There is a well-known proverb about recognition. It goes like this: babies cry for it and men will die for it. I watch a lot of YouTube videos about things that interest me. I watched one recently that described something called Price's Law, which simply states that 50% of a company's productivity comes from the square root of the total number of employees. So as a company grows, competence increases linearly, but incompetence and wasted productivity grows exponentially. Now, this is a radical departure from the more generally accepted Pareto principle, more commonly known as the 80-20 rule. So, for example, Price's Law would state in a company with 10 employees, 3 will produce 50% and 7 will be responsible for the other 50%. Now, I've extrapolated all these numbers for you, and if you want them, I can send them to you. But the lesson is this: in a company of 10 people, you only have 3 that are doing 50% of the work, which seems like that's not a very fair distribution of the burden. But in a company of 100, now only 10 are doing 50%, and the other 90 are splitting the other percent. So the labor burden drops down for the 90, and it increases for the other 10. So the ratio of top talent goes from 30% down to 10%. Again, 10 superstars are contributing 5% each, but the remaining 90 are doing about 0.5%. Now watch this. In a company of 1,000, only about 32 employees are doing half the work. This means that over 95% of the employees are dividing the remaining 50%. On average, every superstar in a large company of 1,000 is outproducing the slackers by a factor of 30. And these figures are absolutely real. This is a fascinating phenomenon and something I observed and experienced in my time growing up in a family that owned several businesses, and also as a very hardworking, conscientious employee myself. I watched most people work as little as possible to collect their hourly wage or their salary, and it really disgusted me. In a company of only 10, though, there's no place for the unproductive, lazy people to pass off work and hide. But in a company of hundreds, it's easy to blend into that unproductive herd. This dynamic that I witnessed is probably subconsciously a central reason why I became a network marketer to begin with, rather than a traditional business owner. Employees are a nightmare to deal with and motivate, and they steal from you. And I would get angry at the laziness I saw in my coworkers. But if I were the owner, I cannot imagine what I would do. This is the real truth about leveraged and tiered compensation, which is available in network marketing. It's also in every other company in some form. So in a traditional business, not in network marketing, CEOs and senior executives earn far higher salaries than entry-level employees because in most cases, they have risen to that level of skill, competence, leadership, and productivity. But they had to replace someone to rise to their position because corporations are structured in such a way that the pyramid has a finite number of senior positions. Compare that same principle to high-ranking MLM distributors who earn significantly higher than distributors who do not build any organization through the same opportunity that is available to them. What is the difference in both companies? Industriousness and the unrelenting determination to learn and grow and figure out how to be better. But the main difference is that network marketing does not have limitations on who can rise, because there's not anybody to displace. When I rank up, I don't kick anybody out to take their position in the hierarchy. I raise my income only through my own sales and by helping my team members build their customer volume. There's no annual raise just for another year logged on the payroll. And I'm not competing with anyone other than the person I was yesterday. That's the truth. Is one method of compensation more fair than the other? Absolutely, without question. Here's why. The difference between MLM compensation and traditional hierarchical compensation models found in most traditional businesses is something known as the living wage. And it's the adult equivalent to the participation ribbon we now see on soccer fields for many. MLM companies use independent contractors who are only paid a commission after they have sold something, in legitimate companies anyway. Now, if you're in a recruiting scheme, then nothing's sold, but you still get paid. That's my beef with it. They are additionally more generously rewarded through the same principle of tiered compensation by the leveraging of the team they worked extremely hard to build. You can bemoan the horrible tactics used by some to achieve this, but in my long tenure, I have found that those leaders, high-ranking, high-earning leaders, do not last because they selfishly treat people as commodities and stepping stones, and that is just something you can't do in this business to build a long-term loyal base of team members. Traditional companies are staffed by employees who trade their time for an agreed-upon salary or hourly wage. So whether you have customers coming in or not, you get your check. I can see how this appeals to someone who does not want to risk failing at something with which they are unfamiliar or don't understand the earning potential is directly tied to their productivity and nothing else. Take Price's Law and ask yourself, what would you prefer? Here are your choices. Number one, you can be an employee in a large company and be highly productive while making about the same as your peers who are doing considerably less work. Can you see that breeding resentment and stress in you? Okay, number two, you can be one of those in the majority of the just get by employees and not excel or advance, and be satisfied with that by doing about a third as much and making about the same as those kiss asses. Number three, you can own that large company, knowing that the larger you work to grow and build it, the more inefficient it will become, and you will be forced to pay mostly unproductive and lazy employees. Or four, you can be a network marketing entrepreneur, independent contractor that has a safety net that allows you to build a business based solely on your level of desire and skill, in which only those on your team who work get paid according to what they actually produce, and you will never be required to reward unproductivity. For me, there's no question as the fairest and most ethical type of compensation. It is hands down the leveraged and multi-tiered type you have the ability to create for yourself, only found in legitimate network marketing companies with a value-based commodity, but without all the headaches of owning a traditional business, including paying unproductive people with an employee mindset. 99.7% of people who join MLM lose money. This is true, and it's well documented. But that is entirely impossible to do with me in my company, and if you join my organization specifically, if you decide to follow the business plan I've painstakingly developed to ensure that it will not happen to you. I'd like to end this broadcast with a couple of my favorite scripture verses from Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. Proverbs 22, verse 29. Do you see a man skilled in his work? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before obscure men. And Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10. Whatever your hand finds to do, do with all your might, for there's no activity or planning or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol, the grave, where you are going. I hope everybody has a wonderful and safe Valentine's Day weekend. Thanks a lot for tuning in.